the premier sports talk radio. It's Tony's Takes.
Here we go.
And we're back with another great episode of Tony's Takes here on YouTube. Of course, I'm not alone in the studio. I've got my co-host, Jimmy D, right next to me. What's up, Jim?
Not much, Tony. How you doing?
We got a big week. We got a huge week.
Huge.
It is another week of Eagles football. It is another week of Phillies drama. I didn't even put that in the write-up this week. It is another week of NBA Finals action, or inaction, I would say. It's been kind of boring in my opinion. And we've got a lot of other miscellaneous topics to talk about outside of the Eagles. We got the NFL season in jeopardy. Who would have thought that the NFL might have to cancel? I was actually a big believer in the fact that the NFL would be the last entity to ever question if it should stay open or close. So we got a lot of that. And finally, we got MLB World Series. I feel like no one's talking about the World Series. We'll go in and me and Jim will pick our World Series champions, and we'll also pick our Eagles weekly. Jim, I went 4-2-1. There was a tie, and you are 5-1-1, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
so we'll give our Eagles predictions as well. But, Jim, I think we got to start off with the NBA Finals. I think you have a couple words to say about this game or these games between the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the mic to you, and you can start.
Yes, sir. Let's get into this NBA Finals. I think there's a lot to talk about here. There's a little controversy about, who might be more talented, or if there's a case here to say that the Heat kind of, walked their way into the finals with a weak East. We'll see. So with the incoming doom of the Miami Heat, I wanted to beat Game 5 to the punch here by comparing what exactly went wrong and what is going wrong for Miami against LeBron's Lakers. So does the problem come down to the Lakers just being more talented than any team in the NBA? Or like I said, is the East so much weaker than the West that Miami was just able to coast through, by being well coached? So the Heat in the playoffs, they had a 12-3 record heading into the finals. They were never really challenged, and this made it seem that they would be an extremely tough opponent for the Lakers. People might say, "Oh well, Miami lost Goran and they lost Bam in their toughest series to open up." Now that may be true, but if you've watched this series, there's only one toss-up game that might have gone the other way if Miami had Goran on the floor. That was Game 4. So maybe you say Goran pushes the series to 2-2. When I watch LeBron and AD together, Miami doesn't even come close to that talent. That's two of the top 10 players in basketball right now. Miami can't be the Lakers, who are so top-heavy. They have to play as a team, which is a testament to the leadership in Miami. Pat Riley and Spoelstra. They're very good at shaping that team, keeping them together, trying to hold them accountable for turnovers, etc. But, don't believe me. Take a look at the Heat, where they may have won games over the playoffs. Let's take a look at the Heat, where they have won games over the playoffs versus their losses. So 5 of their 6 losses have come where one player on the team is the leader in 2 out of the 3 major stats. That's points, rebounds, and assists. Half of their wins are from games where there is someone different leading each statistic. So let's take that to the finals. Each game has three statistics, right? Points, rebounds, and assists. So over the last 4 games, there's one leader per stat, leaving 12 opportunities for the Heat to lead in whatever statistic. So Jimmy Butler has led the team in 9 out of those 12 areas. The opportunities have become so limited for this team. That loss of Goran has really shaped how differently Miami has had to play against the Lakers. Miami has been trying to go Jimmy Butler versus the world, basically. That worked for one game. Jimmy Butler's 40-point triple-double. which, by the way, is his first triple-double in the playoffs ever. The Lakers then adjusted and gutted out a tough game. Do you know why? Miami forced the Lakers to become more than just two players on the court. All of a sudden, you see KCP and Rajon Rondo stepping up in the hardest minutes of the fourth quarter. Not to mention Alex Caruso doing his job throughout the whole game. I know Rondo only had 2 points in that last game, but look at what he provides on the court. The guy is a master of the playbook. He knows when to expect the baseline cut as he drives in. He knows when Bam is expecting him to pass the ball, so he goes right in with his right hand on the left side of the basket. That last game was more than just LeBron and Anthony Davis. Everyone is going around saying AD is the perfect teammate for LeBron and he's who he always needed. Well, I'm over that. The Miami Heat are what LeBron and the Lakers needed. Game 4 was the first game of the finals where I saw two teams playing against each other. So take everything I just said. Does it really seem like the Lakers are more talented than everyone in the East? Is Miami just good enough to beat a weak Eastern Conference? I doubt it. This Miami team is extremely well coached and talented in their own right. The reason for Miami's poor showing comes down to poor circumstances. Tyler Herro is a phenomenal rookie, but he isn't consistently great in every game. He makes plenty of mistakes, turns the ball over, especially in that last game. Miami plays on a small rotation, which shows some of the inexperience and maybe distrust in their bench. Goran is not coming back in this series. Personally, I've had a plantar fascia tear, and this is extremely painful. So he has shown with tears in it. He's shown with tears in his eyes, trying to warm up before the game. And if Miami wins Game 5, there may be a possibility that he can come back, but I highly doubt it. Bam suffered an injury when the team needed him most. And when you are a team that plays as a team, not like the Lakers, but as Miami, losing 2 of your starting 5 is detrimental to success. Jimmy Butler is a great leader, but when AD is covering him, he becomes very limited. Kendrick Nunn has essentially been benched until the last 2 games or so, and that's quite a big stage for a rookie that didn't play much in the previous series against Boston. Here's my final note on the Miami Heat. The Heat are a young team that has reached the finals about a year or two too soon. Once Herro and Nunn develop in the offseason, you will see the Heat take the East next year, and I think the Bucks, they are proven to always be fakers. And I look forward to watching more great team basketball from the Heat in the future.
Good monologue, Jim. I thought that went pretty well.
Thanks, Tony.
For those just joining Tony's Takes, come on in. You're welcome to listen here on YouTube. Live chat is open. If you want to chat in the live chat, put your takes in there. Tyler O'Donnell says, Heat work harder, have more heart, and have better chemistry. But the Lakers just have more talent. I gotta agree.
It's such a shame to see that, too.
And you heard it in Jimmy's monologue, right? This team plays hard. They play as a team. I mean the Miami Heat, that is. They play hard. They play as a team. They look good. They care about the win. They have guys who are patting each other on the back. They look like a complete unit when they're on the court with one another, and I really have a lot of respect for that team. They bring excitement to the NBA. But I want to hit on some of the things that Jim had said in his monologue. And Jim, of course, this is a time where we go back and forth, so if you don't like what I'm saying, feel free to interject.
Love it.
Tyler Herro was a mess. Was a big, ugly mess on the court the other night against the Lakers. I'm talking the Game 4 loss, right? This is the time where Miami can go and tie the series, take the wind out of the Lakers' sails, and go, no. This is our time to win. This is our time to prove that just because you went 2-0 on us, we're not flopping. We're not laying over and dying. We're the Miami Heat. Pat Riley is our leader. Eric Spoelstra is our leader, and we're going to win. And we're not just a bunch of young guys who got lucky. We deserved every win. We deserved the win against the Bucks. We deserved the win against the Celtics, and we don't even need to deserve it. We're just going to take the win from you, the Lakers, a team that no one cares about outside of Los Angeles, a team that everyone doesn't like. They're like the Cowboys. They like to claim they're America's team, but they're not America's team. They haven't even been in the playoffs to be recognized as America's team for the last 7 years. And you're just a big nobody organization. And the only reason why you're here is because the team across the street, the Los Angeles Clippers, they lost. They blew it. And so The only opportunity for you to win a championship is when your rival can't get the job done. And we're going to prove it to you that is who the Miami Heat are. We break hearts. We take away championships from teams who think they deserve it. And the Lakers are just a team that has other teams do their dirty work, like the Denver Nuggets. But that can't happen when Tyler Hero goes 8 for 18, Jim. All that passion I just said, all that enthusiasm, all that pageantry, the things that make great 30 for 30s on ESPN, no, they cannot happen if a rookie thinks he's an all-star and shoots 8 for 18 against the Lakers. That's not what makes stars. Going 3 for 7 from 3, no, that doesn't make stars. That takes away shots from other guys like Bam Adebayo, who are shooting 75% from the field. Takes away from guys like Duncan Robinson, who know when to shoot the ball. They don't shoot the ball every time. They shoot it when it's appropriate. And they go 4 for 7, 6 for 8. They're guys who are high caliber, high percentage making individuals. And if they're not the ones shooting, then it's Jimmy Butler. But when Tyler Hero shoots the ball more than Jimmy Butler, well, that's just not going to end in anything good. It's going to look actually really ugly. And when Kendrick Nunn goes 2 for 11...
Now you're touching on what I'm picking up on.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When Kendrick Nunn goes 2 for 11, another rookie, how do you expect to win?
Is it fair to say that he's ill-prepared for the finals, Kendrick Nunn, with having to ride the bench for, so many series before?
Yeah, I mean, look, but here's the thing. He's coming off the bench again. He has to ride the bench. The team's too good for a rookie to be starting.
No, I mean, he did not play for several series before.
Oh, so he's coming. You mean like because he's coming in cold turkey?
Yeah, I just feel like this is a lot to take on Anthony Davis and LeBron James in the finals.
Yeah, but you're the second unit.
Yeah,
those two guys aren't on the court, and the Miami second unit has proven that they can run. They're the other two games. You notice that the Miami second unit against the Boston Celtics, they were the reason that they were crawling back in those games when they were down.
That's true. But you got to look at Kyle Kuzma, who's stepping up, and as much as I want to hate on Alex Caruso, he kind of reminds me of the Delhi back in the day when LeBron had Dellavedova just being tough, and you got Rajon Rondo, he's not shooting well, but like I said before, he's a master of the playbook, and I don't know. I don't think a rookie can really measure up to somebody. Rajon Rondo's been playing for 12 years now, so I have some more issues with Kendrick Nunn and Jay Crowder rather than Tyler Hero.
So, Jay Crowder, okay, right? He's 1 for 8 or 1 for 7 or 2 for 7 from the field. I don't have it up.
He only shot threes.
And then Rajon Rondo is 1 for 7. See, that's the thing. Rajon Rondo, his imprint on that game 3, and they play tonight. It's the final game, I think, of the series.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tomorrow night. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Rajon Rondo goes 1 for 7, right? But when you watch the ending of that game, you notice that, oh my gosh, he is playing killer defense. There's a reason why he's +8 when shooting 1 for 7 from the field. He made an impact on the defensive end, and it showed up in the stat plus-minus, while LeBron James was a -2. Not saying LeBron James didn't play a big role. He did. Scoring 28 points is important for your team. But on the defensive end, you can just tell Rajon Rondo, I guess what I'm saying with the +8 is, don't measure LeBron James on it. Doesn't really matter as much. But for a player who goes 1 for 7 and still is able to go in the plus, that's where it's like, oh, wow, that's kind of impressive. On the other hand, Jimmy Butler almost did his triple-double again. I don't know if you saw that the other night. He almost did 2 triple-doubles in a row, and everyone was saying it was kind of on Jimmy Butler. He wasn't a bulldog when he came out. I think he played well. I just think clearly Anthony Davis was able to stifle him on the defensive end to some degree. I don't know if you agree with that part, Jim.
Oh, I agree. He started 5 for 5 from the field, and then once Anthony Davis was on him, I believe he was 3 for 12 for the rest of the game.
Put him right on there, and there was no question about it. They just looked better after that. They were able to silence what is the best player on the other side of the ball.
And this is one of those issues where, I was talking about the points, assists, and rebounds. You can't have Jimmy Butler leading in all three statistics, not with this team. This team is built to work together and share the ball.
Right, and you have to have a core competency as a team and as individuals. You got to know where your role fits in all of it.
And I think missing Goran is a huge part of it. That's a guy that I remember he was putting up, 20-plus points pretty much every night in the playoffs.
For those just climbing into Tony's Takes, welcome. If you're a first-time listener, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube and hit the notification bell twice. Double tap the notification bell. That way you get notified every time we go live here on YouTube, 7 o'clock on Thursdays. We're just talking a little bit of the NBA Finals. But, Jim, I kind of want to shift from the NBA Finals. That's okay with you. Gave it a good 15 minutes to open the show. I think the Lakers are still going to win. I listened to last week's episode again. I was doing a little... I usually listen to the episodes. I re-listen to the episodes after Tony's Takes. So, say it's Wednesday of the following week. I'll listen to the episode again just to see what we recapped, what we said. That way when we come into the episode again, I kind of know where we stand as a show. And I had noticed that I said the Miami Heat were going to win in 6 games last week after the Lakers had won 2 already. So that's just how accurate Tony's Takes can be sometimes. Jim, on the other hand, he's been right. He said 5. You said gentleman sweep.
Yeah.
You've been right on this one.
I think it's going to happen. I don't want it to happen, but it just doesn't look great, especially Goran's ruled out for tomorrow.
Evection Night says double tap it. Yeah, double tap the notification bell if you're a subscriber. Please. And if you're listening to the show and you like what you hear or you have a different take, chat it up in the chat. We read them here on the show. He says Yanks are same guy. Evection Night says Yanks are not getting to the ALCS. I guess the game must have ended today. Or
he had a little preview of what was going on for the show tonight. That's my brother.
Oh, Johnny knows. Yeah, we're gonna get into the Yankees. I said surprise. I thought the Yankees were going to the World Series. We can't all just be saying the Dodgers are going to the World Series. But I want to talk about Doc Rivers real quick. I want to talk about Doc Rivers. We talked about the NBA Finals. I just mentioned the Miami Heat. Not the Miami. Well, we didn't mention the Miami Heat. I mentioned Doc Rivers. I mentioned the Clippers imploding and giving the Lakers an easy way to the NBA Finals. And that LeBron has not overcome anything this year. Doesn't take away from the championship. I don't like people who say that it does. It doesn't. However, I thought and found it to be an opportunity for Miami to show that the Lakers are just here out of luck and not talent as much as some people believe, just because others had cleared the way for them, one of them being Doc Rivers, who has the luxury of being the Philadelphia 76ers' new head coach. And so Jimmy D, I want to play a couple Doc Rivers clips. You sent me the interview. They had the open media day. I heard the one question from Howard Eskin. I couldn't find it in today's clips. I was trying to find the Howard Eskin one because I heard it on the radio and I really liked what he had asked the question of Doc Rivers. However, there's a couple other questions. And so the first thing, I want to play this one clip of the offense. How does Doc Rivers view the offense? Jim, get ready. Here he is talking about the Philadelphia 76ers and what he's going to do with the gruesome twosome Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid.
Well, the first thing I do is get in the gym a little longer to give you that answer. But the second part is this. They've won 65% of the games that they've played in, right? So it clearly works when they play together. If you've watched my teams, I rarely say that the guys are 1 or 2. I don't get lost in the minutia. I don't get lost in what position guys play. I look at how many points we score as a team. I don't care how we score. You know, my teams have always been very good offensively in the top 5 overall. And we score points, and we score points in a lot of different ways. We got Ben that can score points. We have Joel. We have Tobias. We have Shake. We have Jeff.
Those guys were so good at scoring points. They were one of the worst teams in the league at doing it.
Per 100 possessions, I think they were around 98 per 100 possessions.
Which is
very low.
Borderline
very low.
Last in the league.
Yes.
Okay, I like Doc's answer. We're going to be really good on offense. Okay, thanks. I look forward to seeing it. But how are you going to turn what we have now into a good offense? That's the question. You can say, oh, my teams had good offenses. Well, you had Kawhi Leonard, and you had You had Chris Paul, the greatest point guard in the last, outside of Steph Curry, or he was at least the best point guard in the league for 10 years.
I think fans want to hear scheme immediately as he comes in, and I think I don't know if he's prepared to just really go into all that. I don't know if he knows, what pieces are moving already yet. What trades might be in the works. So
you're saying trades?
Who knows? I'm not. I'm not one to shut down. I'm sure trades will be coming. Whether it's big or small, but I don't know if he's ready to even go into how he's going to make Al Horford work, or if he's thinking that Al's going to stay. He's he's not. I don't know. I don't think he's ready.
Okay, and I totally agree that Doc Rivers is a guy who knows how to win. He knows what he's doing, and I trust him to make the right moves. But I'm a guy who wants to see the scheme fit. Jim, I think we got someone on the line if you want to introduce him to the show.
Yeah, sure. On the line, we have my father, Stephen Daniels.
Mr. Daniels, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Excellent.
How the boys doing tonight?
We're doing great.
We're
what do you
chilling.
want to call in about?
Well, I just have one thing. Jimmy picked the Eagles to win this past Sunday, and I was floored knowing it was San Fran, but he knew something we didn't. But I'm actually want to know, what do you think about Jordan Mailata staying at that left tackle position? He, I think, played absolutely phenomenal this past week.
So I agree, right? If the line holds up, the line holds up. There's no question of, do I want to play around with, like, Jason Peters not coming back anytime soon? I don't think so, right? He's probably out for the rest of the season. So you need to, who you got is who you got. And if they're playing well, they're playing well.
I think what you're kind of posturing there is, even if Jason Peters is healthy, is Mailata the better pick, right?
Yeah, it's exactly my thought. I think he is. At 6'8", 380 pounds, I think he's coming in at. He's a house. Nobody's moving him.
Yeah.
And the way he was throwing elbows and punches, was phenomenal to see.
He's so athletic because he has that rugby background, and you can tell he's really kind of matured into that position. I do see what you're saying. He's throwing punches, and I think that's a good start for him. I'm concerned more about when he gets fast defensive ends that have that swim move that can get around him very quickly. What do you think about that?
I think that with his wingspan, I don't think he's going to grab a hold of somebody, and they're not going to. I don't care how fast they are, they're not going to get past his strength. From what I can see so far.
Do you remember in the preseason, maybe a couple of years ago, they kind of showed him off to everybody, and he had that big like donkey kick backwards that he would do, and he would get ahead of those fast guys.
Yeah, and like I said, I just think he's a monster. I think he's gonna, for a guy that didn't know the game 3 years ago, is really stepped up and shown that he can play with the big boys.
Speaking of a player from 3 years ago, Carson Wentz, who doesn't look the same as 3 years ago, comes out and plays, I think, pretty well, Mr. Daniels. As a lifelong Eagles fan, what are your thoughts on that performance?
This past week, I thought it was great, but I don't know if it's just smoke and mirrors. I think maybe because the line stepped up and started playing a little bit better, he's giving them a little, an extra second. All the best quarterbacks have 3 seconds in the pocket and the ball's gone. He actually showed that this week that he could do that.
And he used his legs, right? Wasn't afraid to run the ball a little bit.
I looked at Jimmy during the game and said, I can't believe he's actually moving out.
Now, touching on the quarterback, kind of related to that, I've been a proponent of, kind of looking for the replacement of Jason Kelce in the future. There was a couple of bad snaps from this past Sunday. What's your take on Kelce, and I guess what do you think his future looks like?
Look, I love Jason Kelce. His speech kind of solidified his presence in the city of Philadelphia, so he's going to be revered and loved forever. But I said this to the other week. I wouldn't be opposed to putting Mailata at center, teach him how to snap the ball, and build around that.
At center?
Put him at center and watch him. Nobody getting in the middle. with him. I know it sounds funny, it sounds crazy, but put him in a center position, and nobody's going to get past him.
Mr. Dales, before we let you go, I just want to ask, do the Eagles win this week? Are you going to be a little more optimistic like your son?
I am. I think they do win this week, and I think they're going to win with a big score.
We appreciate the call. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, I love the show. Keep it up, boys.
Thanks, Dad.
Stephen Daniels in Summerdale.
I love it. I think that was his first official Tony's Take hot take.
Mylata at center in the chat. If you like Mylata at center, we got Mylata's too big for center. That's absurd. Was another comment. I love it. That's what it's all about here on Tony's Takes. I just want to get some people were chatting up about Elton Brand. Tyler O'Donnell says trade Tobias. Caitlin Raylis says we need a whole new team. And then they keep going on, say they need to get rid of Elton Brand. Yeah, they kind of do. And then Jake Milligan, new listener Jake Milligan, thanks for tuning in, goes, who gets traded for the 76ers? I think there will be a trade in the 76ers, going back to that.
There's got to be. I just don't know who. I don't know if they can get rid of Al in any package with the size of the contract.
You can't get rid of him. You want to hear another Doc clip? I know we were just talking birds, but can I keep it back at the 76ers?
Yeah, let's go back to the Sixers.
Even though Steven in Summerdale, I got to give him his due, man. When you call in, you get on the line.
It was a great call.
Let's play, this is another Doc clip talking about if you can't do something, don't do it. So this is Doc.
Well, just from years of experience, there's no such thing as a complete team. There really isn't. Every team has flaws. I watched the game last night with two teams that are in the finals, and if you wanted to, you can pick both teams' flaws. Every team has them. They just do. And for me, I've always I've had the ability to play around those. You know, I don't get stuck on them. I don't get stuck on what you can't do as a group. You know, I spent a lot of time with Red Auerbach, who used to tell me and drill it in my head, if they can't do it, don't do it.
I just think of Imagine by John Lennon. Imagine, like, all the people. Imagine all the Sixers who could shoot a three and play good offense and score. I don't know, is he putting himself in a bind a little bit? If you can't do it, don't do it, but we're going to score a lot of points. Well, what we can do doesn't really result in a lot of points. It's what we can't do that does score in the NBA, and you just told me we're not going to do it.
At this point, if I'm Doc, I'm not committing towards anything.
You're just going to say what pleases the people.
Yeah, you just make Philadelphia happy right now. I don't know if you really have to. You don't have to come to any conclusion of what you're going to do yet. Like I said, there are trades in the works probably right now. So let's just, don't commit to anything right now.
I'm committing to it.
Oh.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You come to Philadelphia, you're the grand master of offensive basketball, according to yourself, and the first question that they ask you, for the fans out there of Tony's Takes and the Sixers fans that listen to the show, go Google the interview. The first question they ask is the one where he goes, I'm the best offensive coach in the NBA. And then at the end, which that last clip was from the end, he goes, if you can't score, then don't try. Now, Jim's probably going to say you're giving him you're giving him a bad look. But welcome to Philadelphia. That's how it's done here. You don't answer the question right, we hold your feet to the fire.
Yeah, we definitely hold our coaches accountable.
And don't give me the politician answer.
It's the whole reason why he's here, right? It's because we finally held our coaches accountable.
This is true. I think I have said everything I want to say about Doc Rivers. That was a good 15 minutes on Doc Rivers. However, there's just one other thing I want to say while we wrap up the NBA. NBA ratings have been at its lowest all time. Lowest all time. And there's a lot of issues. The political stuff, they're taking off the court next year. There was an article about that. I'm not going to go into too greater detail, but that's definitely one of the issues. The other issue is they're playing in October, and last time I checked, Reggie Jackson was called Mr. October. Yeah. That's baseball season. I think that's another issue. I think people are thinking, it's kind of chilly. Let me put my fall coat on. It's baseball season. It's not basketball season. Another issue I think there is that they're playing the games at 9 o'clock at night every night. Back when the the games used to alternate East Coast, West Coast, they would start the East Coast game at like 8 o'clock. They weren't afraid to start it at 8 or 7:30. And they'd say, if you're from LA, okay, whatever. Like 8 o'clock start, that's 5 o'clock their time.
Get done work,
You
watch
get
the
done
game.
work, right. Okay, if you missed the first quarter, okay, but the East Coast is the bigger media market.
Exactly. Yeah, having a 9 o'clock game on the East Coast. First off, it's brutal on us to stay up during the week to write down our notes on the game. I can't imagine the people that are just casual watchers trying to stay up and go to work every day.
You also have just like the presidential politics. Like I think people are tuning into the news more than they're tuning into sports. Like just in general.
There's a lot of distractions from the NBA.
Right,
now.
and that's my point. There's a lot of distractions. There's other sports. There's other worldly matters. And I don't think the politics is the other thing that's just not holding up on them. There's a reason why Adam Silver's taking it away. There's a lot of issues with the NBA. And I don't think staying in the January to August, September model is going to last for them. No. That's where my final point on this is. I think the NBA really needs to get back to the spring is your NBA finals schedule. Once the pandemic's done with, or once you know that you can travel around, and these other sports like baseball and football are kind of proving that you don't have to do it in a bubble per se. And I don't think it's going to be easy to get other players to buy into a bubble again. It's taken a lot of tolls on these guys to be away from their families. I think moving forward, the NBA needs to really think through long and hard about when and where the seasons are going to be played for the next 5 years.
I agree. Yeah, this is... I think that they should just have a shortened season. You go January to June, just like normal. You know, I think the finals normally finish up around early June or...
Yeah, mid-June.
Mid-June? Okay, yeah. So I think that's what they should go with. Maybe it's 50 games. I don't know what that looks like as far as packing in games from that point forward.
I think the players would be on 50 games, and you start in January and you end in May.
Yeah, and I think you'll get more fans watching. And
right. The smaller you make your product available... Business lesson for all you out there, the more people desire to have it. It's exclusivity. The NFL plays 16 games. You need to tune into every one of those 16 games to understand what's going on with your team.
Right.
Because it only lasts 3 months, and you need to get every minute of it in when you're in season. And I think the NBA can learn from it. The MLB can learn from that. The MLB can make their season a little bit shorter and extend the playoffs just a little bit. I like the extended playoffs to a certain degree, maybe a little bit more wild card teams, because anything can happen in a wild card play-in game. I see the MLB doing that and then shortening the season as well, just because, once again, playing 165, you're saturating the market with your content. Pull it back just a little bit. It can be a longer season than most sports. Play 140, play 130. But 165, right?
I wonder at 162. But
162.
Yeah, I wonder how they got to that number. How the heck did they get to 162 games?
They used to play less.
Yeah, I think they used to play like 80 at one point.
Yeah, back in like the 50s to 60s, I think it was like 110.
Yeah, it was not the way that it is now. I guess it's all a money grab, really.
Right? How many games can you put on television?
And fans and tickets and all that.
Yep. Even though who's going to a doubleheader at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday? The Businessman Special.
Oh. Stephen Daniels was a previous attendant of the Businessman Special.
What, really?
Yeah.
What a legend. Let's go into the Philadelphia Eagles. Speaking of Stephen Daniels, our resident Eagles fan. The Philadelphia 76ers, the Philadelphia Eagles. Where to start? Jim, I think the first place we start is the bets for the week.
Ooh,
Last week we ended with the bets. This week we're going to begin with the bets for the Philadelphia 76ers. The Philadelphia Eagles. Why do I keep saying that? I don't know. I'm an idiot. Okay. So last week, as I said, Jim is 6-1-1. I am 5-2-1. For those who are new to Tony's Takes, what me and Jim do, we take the spread, pick the spread, and then also we do the over-under. So, Jim, this week, you can start first. Oh, and last week we had a push, so we have a tie. That's why it's 6-1-1 and 5-2-1. And both Jim and I took the spread and got it.
Yeah, and part of this, the worst part of this show sometimes is now I'm cheering for the 49ers to get a 2-point conversion so they can hit the over. I love it. I'm going to go with the spread first, and I think that this is crazy that the Eagles are at plus 7.5.
They were at 7, and then all of a sudden it's 7.5.
I know
I'm
that
gonna
we
go
talked
into-
we
we're
talked
gonna
about
go
this a little
into
bit before the
it.
show. I think that this is absurd. I'm going to go with the Eagles plus 7.5. I actually think that the Eagles could pull off a win for this game straight up. So I'm going to go with the Eagles plus 7.5.
And your line, over or under?
All right, so the over-under is 44.5. I'm going to go with over. I think that this is going to be a lot of scoring.
I'm going to take the spread. I'm going to go under. I think that it's going to go two ways.
Wait, what are you taking on the spread?
The Eagles.
Oh, Eagles.
Sorry.
Okay.
Taking the Eagles on the spread at plus 7.5. I think it's going to be a closer game than that. I don't think that, and we're going to go into it why I don't think the Steelers are that good. But also, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair because fans are going to be in the stadium. It's going to be a different type of feel to the game. And so I know it's not really too scientific. I know that the Steelers have a very good pass rush. That's why I'm seeing Wentz having a little bit of a hard time scoring immediately. But on the other side, I think the Eagles' defense also has a pretty good pass rush.
Definitely.
And so that's where I'm seeing this defensive battle. The Steelers have good offensive weapons, but if you can get to Big Ben, an older quarterback, I think there's a shot. So that's what I'm going to go with this one.
Speaking of our front four, just one little statistic for you. Can you guess where the Eagles rank as far as yards allowed per attempt to running backs going into this week?
Rank out, like, so 1 to 32, 1
Yeah,
being
in the
number
NFL.
1.
Yeah.
I think they're probably 6.
Oh, that's pretty good. They're 7th.
Okay.
Yeah, they average about 3.5 yards allowed per attempt, which is pretty excellent. I mean, that's right around where they've averaged.
Never do
in
I
the
feel like
past.
we're getting burned by the running game. It always feels like it's an errant pass that's just going over our heads. But that 70, what am I saying? 76ers.
You just have them in your head.
I know, it's
Dreaming about
it's
them.
Doc Rivers. Against I think I was going to say the 49ers, and then I thought numbers, and I said 76ers because I'm so used to saying it. The 49ers, against the 49ers, that Eagles team, first time turnovers. I was so happy to see them finally intercept the ball. It only took 1/4 of the season to get an interception against a quarterback who has no business being in the NFL. However, if they can do that somewhat against us, you just need one turnover. One turnover can change the game for any team in the NFL on any given Sunday. If the Eagles can get one turnover, it's going to be sunny. It's going to be 74 in beautiful Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. 5,500 fans in the crowd. Get an interception, they'll all be leaving because we'll win.
I like it. I'm on your train, man. I really think that it all starts with that rush, and I think you get pressure on Big Ben. And yeah, you're right. You know, if we get the ball on the ground early, we start running, and then you open up Wentz at the end, it's going to be a phenomenal game. This Steelers team, I think, is pretty overrated right now. And
You saw what I put in the write-up.
You've touched on it a little bit. I think that they really have to play the Ravens in order for anybody to know whether they're legit or not. So
Teams they've played. The Giants.
not a good team.
The Broncos.
Not a good team.
The Texans, who just fired their head coach.
Just fired their head coach. Not looking good.
So why are they 7.5 favorites? Remind me again.
I think maybe there might be a little bit of recency bias on the Birds. You know, a lot of bettors probably don't like the first 3 weeks that they saw of the Eagles, and maybe they don't buy into the success of last week because Nick Mullins was the starting quarterback. And
Right, it's a different guy than Ben Roethlisberger, Hall of Famer and 2-time Super Bowl champion.
They had to put in C.J. Beathard. Sorry, I always want to pronounce it wrong. C.J. Beathard in to actually score a touchdown. So it's definitely the Pittsburgh's definitely a better version of what they faced last week, and it's gonna be hard because it's still an away game, I believe. Right? They're playing in Steel City.
They are at Heinz Field. Beautiful Heinz Field.
5,500 fans.
74 degrees. It's going to be beautiful. A beautiful day for an Eagles win.
Do you have any score predictions? Do you have any idea I know you said low scoring. I was thinking somewhere around 27 to probably 21, somewhere in there. Thinking like 48 to 50 points.
I want to score-a-gami.
Scoregami just happened, actually.
Yeah, I know. I saw. I'm thinking 29-2, score-a-gami.
That's a bold move there.
Eagles
Cotton.
get the spread, and they're on the under. 29-2.
Oh.
Carson Wentz gets tackled in the end zone. That's a score-a-gami I want to see. Now, I agree. Maybe a 24-21. Very easy seeing that. Back and forth with a field goal to win it. Now, would that be good for the over? Yeah, that's the over. I don't want to see that.
So maybe 24-20 for you.
Yes.
Somewhere like that.
Yeah, and I'll phone in to make sure they know. Call timeouts at the end if you think they're going to get the over. Don't
Say,
let them do it.
Hey, Doug, punt the ball.
Yeah, ring them up.
Punt the ball instead of going for a field goal. We're not used to that or anything.
Well, knowing Doug, he'll probably mess it up. Speaking of Doug, speaking of my guy, Dougie P, let's hear him. Actually, let's not go to Dougie P. Let's go to PFT on Carson Wentz. Here he is talking about Carson Wentz.
Philadelphia Eagles are already going down the yellow brick road of torture. And they're already really fortunate that they're not letting fans in their own stadium, because Carson Wentz would have gotten booed out of that stadium by this point. And now he gets an opportunity against a beat-up San Francisco defense to come out and play a game away from home. And to me, this is a golden opportunity to begin the Carson Wentz rehab show. And that rehab has to include taking what the defense gives you. And in the immortal words of Mike Florio, stop trying to score 20 points on every drive.
The Antiques Roadshow with Carson Wentz. That's what I heard when I heard the Rehab Roadshow. I also heard follow the Yellow Brick Road. Follow the Yellow Brick Road. Who the heck says that?
He's a little antiquated. But that's okay.
This ain't 1930. We're not listening. We're not watching The Wizard of Oz.
It's good to go back and listen to that and know that Carson stepped up when he had a lot of pressure. We talked about that. There was a lot of pressure going into these next coming games, and I think if he can get some momentum, which he did, this could be a really good trip through the season, as long as the season remains.
Yeah, but let's listen to Max Kellerman say the very opposite.
The end of last year, when he was terrible and he was being called great against an awful NFC East. And by the way, Eagles management, Howie Roseman, saw the same thing. That's why they drafted a quarterback in the second round instead of packaging him and moving up in the first and getting and getting Wentz some help. They didn't believe in him. By the way, if Hurts wasn't fumbling the ball every time he touched it, there'd already be rumbles. Even yesterday, what did Wentz resemble? A decent mid-level starting quarterback, and that's the best he's looked in a long time. He's still capable of making perfect throws. The touchdown throw he had, who was it to? It was perfect, like beautiful. Very few players ever could make a throw like that. So I get the excitement about the upside. Maybe he had 3 or 4 more quality throws the entire game. And by the way, look at the way he runs. Remember him 2017? I remember this well. This is why I was so excited about him. He had, what do they call it, escapability? He had that, like, he was really good, even moving around and escaping pressure and all this stuff. The way he runs now, schematically it worked yesterday, but he lumbers.
Jimmy, you got breaking news?
Breaking news. 2 NFL games have been moved for this week due to concerns. That is New England, Denver moved to Monday night, which was tonight's game, and Tennessee and Buffalo moved to Tuesday night.
So no game tonight.
No game, no Thursday night football.
Breaking news, bringing in... Sorry, I was going to go off about Max Kellerman being totally right for once. But that is actually pretty big news, and we'll talk about the COVID stuff for the NFL after we get done trashing Carson Wentz a little bit more, which is my favorite pastime right now. Because I looked like an idiot the other day, Jim. You know why? They do this thing at work. Yes, I have a job. And what they do at work is they ask people to send in this little questionnaire, like, talk about yourself. It's called, like, the Spotlight of the Week or whatever. And I got picked last week. And they, at the very end of the questionnaire, they say, make your own question and then answer it. So some people go, what's your favorite rock and roll band? Van Halen. Too soon. What's your favorite food? Pasta. Well, I put, will the Eagles win this season? And then my answer was, not if Carson Wentz is the starting quarterback.
Oh, no.
And then he goes and wins.
I just like to say this.
I look like a big idiot.
I was right.
Oh. But Max Kellerman's, they're always right on First Take, aren't they? That's their job.
No. Max Kellerman.
They're journalists, Jim.
Oh. I understand. He does have some good points in that interview. I don't think it was part of the clip.
The Tua stuff was bullcrap.
But he did say, or that, whatever's going on First Take, he did say something about, Carson Wentz's passer rating was only like 81.5. That's true. He still has some stuff to work on.
Not out of the woods.
What I like to look at is the type of play that he had was different than in previous weeks. He was able to escape the pocket some more. He wasn't running great, but he was running better, and he was doing it more frequently. And that's sort of what I like. I like momentum. I don't want to see his peak play in week 4. I want to see his peak play down the road of the season when we start gathering up wins and we go into the postseason. So I'm hesitant to criticize Carson right now, but I think down the road, if he hasn't improved, then I'll start criticizing him some more.
If you're listening to Tony's Takes, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube. If you're not listening to us on YouTube, you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, which is the recorded version of the entire show, where you can find the entire episode. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. All reviews get read on the show. And also follow us on Twitter at Tonys_takes. That way you can get all of Tony and Jim's takes throughout the week, all culminating right here on YouTube, 7 o'clock on Thursdays as well. And we're up to 19 subscribers. So that's pretty good. That's pretty exciting. We thank everyone who's listening for subscribing to the show.
So much growth.
Huge amount of growth. There's a couple other things I want to talk about the Eagles. Well, let's go into this NFL stuff. We're flying through everything on the show today, too. The NFL, as Jim just announced, canceled 2 games. Players are testing positive. The Tennessee Titans still seem to continue to have issues in their locker room situation, right? And when I say locker room situation for them, I don't mean player morale. I literally mean the locker room cannot stay healthy and quarantine correctly. So I have this article I found on ESPN that I want to read to everyone. It's from Kevin Seifert. He's a staff writer. But he talks about the NBA. What am I doing today? Talks about the NFL's COVID response to these 2 teams. So I'm going to read it. It goes like this. Why does this not work? Is this going to work? It's time to start asking existential questions about the NFL's attempt to play through the coronavirus pandemic. After near flawless results during training camp, a total of 7 player infections occurred from August 12th to September 19th. The first quarter of the 2020 season has produced a crush of protocol violations and positive test results, as well as ongoing team outbreak and the possibility of a second outbreak. He's talking about the Titans. 2 team outbreaks. The NFL appears fixated on individual and team defiance as the source of the issue, as opposed to unrealistic expectations for life in and around what is called the virtual football bubble. But a number of holes have emerged in the league's protocols, flaws that would exist even if the NFL can find a way to impose them consistently and effectively across all 8,000 team employees, which the league is monitoring on a weekly basis. There continues to be no indication that the league would consider transitioning to a tighter bubble. So as week 5 approaches, the NFL finds itself at a critical inflection point. Will this work? We'll take a closer look here on ESPN. Okay, got it. Thanks. Thanks, Kevin, the man who wrote this. Really appreciate it. It was kind of okay written. Could have been better. However, Doug Peterson was asked this question. I'm going to play Doug Peterson, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, on the COVID question.
Do you still have the same optimism that a season's going to be completed here?
Well, obviously I can't comment too much on other teams. I don't know all the situation, but I do know that, there's positive tests, right? And, basically the message from the league office is just we have to uphold the protocols in place, right? That we've been asked to do. And I feel comfortable with what we've done, what our players have done. We just took this long road trip and everything was good. And, it's something that obviously I have to do my due diligence and keep reminding our team, coaches, players, staff of the protocols that are in place, and we can't let our guard down. And it's unfortunate, but I am optimistic that the league and the season will continue.
You know what's funny about that? And Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Doug Peterson have coronavirus?
Yeah. That's why he couldn't go to training camp in the beginning and everything.
So he was one of those 7 that the article talks about, pretty much.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. He
Why is he worried?
I don't know. Not sure.
But in all seriousness, it's kind of an interesting point. The team did go all the way to California. They even Merrill Reese had to wear a mask. Well, no, not Merrill Reese. I'm sorry. The guys joke. I'm having such a brain fart today. Who does Sunday Night Football? Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels.
Yeah, Al Michaels.
Both of them had to wear masks while announcing the game. So it sounded like this. And they're doing the whole thing. They sound like Kenny from South Park.
And they also don't look like they properly don the PPE either. Some of Chris Collinsworth is
Jim knows how to put PPE on.
Yeah.
They always keep touching their faces.
Yeah.
However, my point of bringing that up is it's a pretty restrictive area, I would say. A lot of rules, a lot of regulation around it. But not everywhere you go is going to be like that, I guess. Or not every team, just because you're in an area you think it's safe doesn't make it actually safe, right? Just because they have all those measures doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything in the NBA. They've said that they've had multiple people try to come through the bubble with it. They weren't people who had access to players, but they were people who had access to food. They had access to common living areas. They were cleaning staff. They were, lighting or engineering. Many of the supporting staff of the NBA, there were a good amount of people that Adam Silver acknowledged said, yeah, there were people they were supposed to come in and we had to deny them. No matter where you are, no matter the bubble you're in, there is nothing's 100% certain in life. And even if you do a bubble, the NBA got lucky, but it easily could have gone into the bubble, not because they didn't have the right controls in place, just because it could bypass, you could do everything right, and sometimes it just gets through.
There's just so many more players with football, too.
Right, and that's the other point.
That's just so many people. That's 53 people.
Double an MLB team.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Part of the stuff with this COVID crisis and all, I actually went into sports this season with the idea that sports aren't happening, right? My protective instinct is don't get my hopes up because I don't want those hopes to be broken or anything. I don't want to be bummed because I thought this was going to happen.
And what you get, you
rejoice. Yes. I got 4 games of NFL season right now. If it just so happens the NFL shuts down because they can't figure out a way to contain this, they can't make everybody feel safe enough to play the game, then I'm okay with it because you can't force this to happen if it's not going to happen. So I would encourage other people to take that same perspective. What we get is what we get. I'm sorry about your fantasy football team season. If you were 4-0 already, that sucks. But
this is why I actually did not do fantasy football. I had a feeling.
Yeah.
Either players weren't going to be showing up. I thought it was going to be teams still play, but players are told you got to wait for 3 weeks. That was my expectation. I didn't expect they just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, I didn't buy in at all. I said I'll give you money at week 10 to ensure that some sort of playoff or championship was going in. But yeah, that's what. Just keep your perspective. Keep your expectations kind of low. Go with this sports stuff. Don't expect every game to be played because it's not the same year.
And not every sport is the same.
Exactly. When you have 53 players on each team for 30 teams, that's like 1,500 people. So
Right. I don't think golf is going to stop anytime soon.
no, you got your twosome out
Right.
there. And
I don't think Formula One's going to stop anytime soon.
No.
But right, you're tackling each other. These guys line up and literally grab one another constantly. Just easier to transfer, you would think. I'm not a doctor, but you would think, yeah, there's a reason why football's kind of just in a different predicament with all of this. And I hope the season continues. It's all I can hope for. I think that's all we can all hope for. But it's unfortunate that, I guess the non-bubble teams, they need to overcome it. And the MLB overcame it. There was an outbreak. They all thought they're going to shut it down. And the MLB handled it correctly with a non-bubble format. And
now,
I would say the MLB is a total success.
now we got the playoffs.
Now we got the playoffs, Mr. October. Good transition. Let's talk about those playoffs. Because the show's closing in. We got a couple minutes left. And we'll oops, sorry. Well, we can go past 7 for just a little bit, Jimbo. You want to give us your MLB predictions first?
Yeah, sure. So let's go with the NLCS first. I think I don't know if it's pretty clear to everybody else, but I think the Dodgers are definitely going to move past the Padres. And the Braves look like the better team against Miami. So I'm going to say that NLCS, you're going to see the Dodgers versus the Braves. I think...
Well, the Braves moved on today.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I'm just
I'm behind on
letting you
my
know.
updates. So Dodgers versus the Braves, that was my prediction before I knew that the Braves were moving on. I expect the Dodgers to win it against the Braves. I don't think it's going to be that easy of a series. I think it's probably going to be 6 or 7. Dodgers win it. Let's move to the ALCS. I think...
And let me check
to see if these have been updated. I
Yeah,
know
'cause the
Yankees,
games are going on right
Yankees
now.
versus the Rays are playing right now. They're only in like the second or third inning. So I'm going to go with that. I think the Rays are going to take that series. And then I think the Astros will be playing them in the ALCS.
They are. The Astros won.
Look at that. So now we have the I believe the Rays will beat the Astros. I think that the Rays have great pitching, not just in their starting pitching, but in their bullpen. We can go into that in a second. So that leaves me with the Rays versus the Dodgers in the chip. And I actually think the Dodgers are finally going to get their first chip for the first time since, I believe,
Long time.
1996.
Yeah.
I think that was the last year. You want to go into your
Yeah, I just
prediction?
want to say this. How about the Braves making it to the first NLCS in over 20 years?
Welcome to the 21st century. Atlanta Braves.
That's crazy. For those who don't know, the Atlanta Braves are the best team in baseball for 10 years in the 90s. Had the best pitcher in the MLB not named Luke Clemens.
Right, and they had one of the best players of all time, really, in Chipper Jones.
Yeah. So the Braves were, and plus they also had Hank Aaron. That was older.
Don't forget
but
him.
My point is, it's a team with pedigree, right? It is a team with pedigree, and it is the biggest team in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta. The Braves are, for professional sports, they're number one in the town. College football is number one in general, but professional sports, the Braves take the cake. They're number one in Atlanta, so it's a big deal for them. I don't like the Braves. I'm a Phillies fan. But I do know that Braves fans are, this is a good thing for them. To some degree, as a Philly fan, you gotta recognize when a cold streak is snapped like that, you're like, oh yeah, good for you.
By the way, fact check on me.
Still don't like them.
1988 for the Dodgers, last time they won a championship.
Okay, so it's even later.
Yeah, I think I might have been confusing the Cowboys. Different sport, but long time.
Yeah, the Cowboys are 90. That's when Troy Aikman and Jimmy Johnson won. So let's go to me. I still think the Yankees can win. They're up 2-0 right now. Thursday night, 8 o'clock. So this is my prediction. I see the Dodgers and the Braves in the NLCS. I like Atlanta in a 5-game series. I think the Ronald Acuna and Freddie Freeman, sorry, I almost blanked on the name. I think that 1-2 punch is just so good. It is probably the best 1-2 hitting punch in baseball.
Very enticing, those two.
So good. But in a 7-game series, the Dodgers, they're just deeper. You're not relying on 2 guys to win you the 5 out of the 7 games, or the 4 out of the 7 games. You got great hitters all around that lineup, very similar to the Yankees. You just never know who's going to score a run for the Dodgers. With the Braves, once you get past the first 3 guys, you're like, okay, now we can sit for an inning or two. Or it's not as worrisome. The lineup's good, but the punch is in the front. With the Dodgers, it comes throughout the entire lineup. So, of course, I'm going to pick the Dodgers. The Yankees are the same way for me. There is no resting if you're the starting pitcher when the Yankees are up to bat. These guys hit the ball, whether they're going to get a double based on the player who's hitting, or they're going to hit a home run based on the player who's batting. It really matters it does matter who's hitting. The impact is going to be different, but they all have the potential to make a big impact. Whether it's driving a run in, hitting a home run, stealing a base, all these guys on the Yankees lineup, they're just good. They're just good. And I think while the Rays like to go deep into their bullpen, they play around with the bullpen a lot. They're very, they like to sub guys in, sub guys out, sub guys in, sub guys out. They have good hitters, but their hitters are strikeout. It's like feast or famine with their hitters. They either strike out or they're on base. And you could say, yeah, Judge is the same way though, but the rest of the Yankees lineup isn't like that. And so I think the Yankees can do it. They just got to dig down. They got to do it. They have the potential. It's easy to say they have the potential. Right now, the Rays have the upper hand. But I'm still feeling there's just something about this team. They proved it the other night against the Rays. The Rays are up 3 runs on them, game 1 of the series. And the Yankees, in the 9th inning, no big deal. We're just going to win the game. Because that's how good those bats are. So I'm going to pick the Yankees still. All depends on what the outcome is tonight.
All the way, even against the Dodgers, huh?
So the Yankees are going to then have to play the Houston Astros.
Right, but I'm saying.
And then
I thought you were taking them all the way.
No, I'm going to. I'm just going to say I have them. I still think they can beat the Rays, and then I see them beating Houston, actually making it a devastating loss, and finally embarrassing. America's team is going to embarrass the cheaters, right? The Yankees are the clean cut guys, right? Couldn't have your hair past your collar. They're going to make an example. They are the standard of baseball, and they're going to make an example of the team that cheated, which I think is a really nice little lineup. And then we have what baseball has needed for the last 30 years. The NBA no one cares about. And the 2 biggest cities, East Coast, West Coast, Dodgers, Yankees. The only other teams I can think of off the top of my head that are bigger than those 2 names in baseball, maybe the Cubs. That's the only other in the Cardinals. Cubs and Cardinals.
That's fair.
Those are the only 2 teams where you go, wow, that's a storied program. That's tier 1 of baseball. And some could say maybe the Red Sox. But the Red Sox weren't really that good until the last 20 years. Baseball's been dominated by the Dodgers, the Cardinals, the Cubs, and the Yankees. That is baseball in America. Cover all 4 quarters of the entire country.
Not to go back too far, but I think, we disagree on the Rays versus the Yankees series here. But I think that we can both agree that this is a really good series, these 2 teams. I think it's probably going to go to Game 5. Yankees win tonight. That'll push it to Game 5.
Which is only good for baseball, right?
Yes, and with all the controversy that's kind of come around these 2 teams, both being in the AL East, the Garrett Cole calling out the Rays, thinking that they're cheating, and just because they have hot bats against them and they're hitting home runs. And I think that is a really good series to pay attention to. That's going to drive up ratings. And then you might see some more traction for the Yankees if they come back and win the series after being down 2-1.
Big morale boost.
Yeah, definitely.
And while their pitching's kind of scattered, they still have the pitcher who can win you games, right?
Yeah.
If you have to do the Scherzer route, you go the Scherzer route, and you have the guy come in the 9th inning.
That's true. One thing that puts the Rays over the top for me, though, they have the best bullpen in the league by far.
No doubt.
They have like an average of, it might be under 2 for the ERA.
Yep. But
their closer, Nick Anderson, 0.55 ERA right now. That is incredible. And I think if they get into close games, possibly with the Yankees here, it's a 3-2 game and they have Nick Anderson coming in the playoffs, oh boy, that's like what the Yankees used to look like with Mariano Rivera.
And you're just like, the game's done with
it's
an inning to
scary,
go.
Yeah. Or 08 Brad Lidge,
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. But I like the Yanks. I still think they got the bats to do it. I like them. And so, Yankees-Dodgers, it couldn't be better for baseball. You have the Rockets being trampled by America's team, only to play the Dodgers. And I think I picked the Yankees to win it all.
I like the story. I don't like the outcome. I think it's Dodgers time, no matter what. Whoever the Dodgers play, I think
they're a bunch of floppers, and I think the Yankees can expose it.
Oh no!
Yeah, I do think so, which would be funny. I would think it's so funny because the Dodgers they pay the most for the most players. They went out and got Mookie Betts. They're still holding on to Clayton Kershaw, and the Yankees, who also pay for all their players, just come in and say, "Nah, that's for us."
With how many trips the Dodgers have had into the deep postseason in the last 10 years and
literally
not come
it's been
up with
10
a championship,
years.
I just feel so bad if they go the distance this time and they lose it in a short season.
I don't want LA to have 2 championships.
That's fair enough too.
I want Tampa Bay to have the next 3. I want them to have the World Series. They already have the Stanley Cup, and then I want them to have the Super Bowl. It's Tampa's year. That's what I'm thinking. Nah, we're gonna give it to the Yankees. So I'm picking Yankees, and you're picking Dodgers.
In the end, that's what it's looking like.
I also want to say that I was saying the teams, the top tier. I put the Phillies in like the second tier of historical teams. They are a historical franchise.
They've been around for a really long time.
Over 100 years.
Reminds me of the Eagles, right? They've been around for a long time. The Eagles won championships before the Super Bowl era, but at the same time, they haven't won what's accounted for today as the Super Bowl. The Phillies have only won 2 World Series. They've had a couple of appearances other than that, but they haven't seemed to make themselves a legacy like they should have.
I'm going to one-up you. You ready?
Sure.
The Phillies are to the Sixers in this regard. The Oakland A's used to be the Philadelphia A's.
Yes.
And in their time in Philadelphia, they were the best team in the whole MLB. They actually won many World Series for the city of Philadelphia, but they were the A's. They weren't the Phillies because the NL and the AL were 2 different leagues. I guess they won their AL championship is the better word to put it, right? It wasn't a World Series just yet, but I think it was starting around there. But the Philadelphia A's were the winning team in Philadelphia. They go out to California. The Philadelphia Warriors had 3 championships, I think. They leave and go, and we have the Syracuse National, who brought a championship and only have won 2 in the city of Philadelphia. I find they both go out to California. They both were the more successful franchise, and they've continued to have success. I feel bad for the A's.
It's very interesting that all 3 Philadelphia teams have this historic franchise background. They've all had championships previously before, it become the Super Bowl, before they become the Phillies, before they become the Sixers. It's very interesting that that's our history here, and that ever since those teams have moved away, or that transition, we've been kind of in a drought. So,
yeah, exactly. It just goes to show who's running the organization. Like, for example, I think the Wilt 100-point game, he was a Philadelphia Warrior at the time, and they were playing out in Hershey.
Yeah, that's correct.
Food for thought, a little history lesson here on Tony's Takes. Jim, speaking of history, I want to close out one thing. Eddie Van Halen passed away. Very sad. One of Jim's idols. And Jim, I think you put a little questionnaire in the thing before we close out the show.
Yeah, a little perspective. I play guitar. Eddie Van Halen was one of the first guitarists that I listened to. So I just posed, what's the top 3 favorite songs from Eddie Van Halen or Van Halen, the band? I'll answer first. First song was Eruption, the extended version, 7 minutes, 13 minutes, whichever one you want to listen to. That is the most mind-blowing guitar solo I've ever heard in my entire life, and it's imprinted in my mind. I could hum the whole song for you on the show, but I'm not going to do that. The next song, Dance the Night Away. Love that song. Play that on Rock Band many years. And then Running with the Devil.
I like it. Because my number 1 is Dance the Night Away. My number 2 is Running with the Devil. And my number 3 is Panama. Panama's great. I love that. Panama's just like a shred, it has that dun dun dun, it just has that nice rhythm to it. I like it. It's like not a thrasher song, but I like that. It drives. It's got a drive to it.
That's a band with a lot of hits.
Tons of hits. They're the number 1 band. I would say they are, when you think of early 80s rock and roll, for me it's like Rush or Van Halen. I'm more of a fan of Rush, late 70s, early 80s, but Van Halen's got a lot of hits. Of hits. They took over what Led Zeppelin had done. So you went from Led Zeppelin to Van Halen in style or whatever.
The next step, that's for sure. And God rest his soul. We're going to miss you, Eddie.
I think that's a pretty good episode, Jim. And I want to just thank everyone for tuning in to Tony's Takes. I know people are starting to leave because we're past our normal hour mark. But for those who are still listening, just wanted to say we appreciate you listening to today's episode of Tony's Takes. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Double click the notification bell while you're there. We're up to 19 subscribers, and I hope we can get to more. Spread the news about Tony's Takes and tell all your friends about the most exciting show in sports radio. I got a lot of clips. We got a lot of sayings today. In addition to that, the ticker's been moving at the bottom of the screen if you're listening on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Tonys_takes. And that's right, email the mailbag.
The mailbag. Love it.
That's a drop right there. Email the mailbag, tonystakes.1851@gmail.com. All takes in the mailbag get read on the show. Want to thank Steven in Summerdale for calling into the show. Mr. Daniels, appreciate it. It was a good take on Carson Wentz. And Jim, I want to thank you for coming in the studio. It was another great episode.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Tony's Takes. Really do appreciate it. Look forward to seeing everyone right here on YouTube next week, 7 o'clock Thursday. You've been listening to Tony's Takes.
The premier sports talk radio, it's Tony's Takes.
Here we go.